Welcome to the Pestle, reviewing and breaking down the movies to look for insights into the movie-making process. Hosted by the Chick and the Duck. Let's dim the lights and start the show.
Welcome everybody to the Pestle. Today's show is brought to you by Lady Longoria. Remove wrinkles, hang a picture, ensnare your enemies. Do it all with the Lady Longoria 1901 multi-tool. Welcome everyone to the Pestle. I am Wes.
And I am Todd.
And we're filmmakers. We make things both in front of, behind the camera, and we like to use all that kind of information to talk about films, even as we make our own in the background, trying to get better. And I feel like this show has always been a really huge help on helping me understand what makes a movie, and how can I insert that into my own projects. In fact, we recently got into a new festival. And so if you're near Macon, Georgia in August 24th, if you're in the immediate, I have like a 10-minute short film in the festival, so don't drive like more than an hour max round trip. If it's like 30 minutes there and 30 minutes back, cool. That might be worth your time if you have nothing going on Sunday afternoon. But otherwise, it's fine. It's okay. But yeah, I'm excited about that. Getting to maybe hang out with Hannah, who a friend of the show, as we can now say. She's on our Barbie episode. If you want to go back and revisit that bit of fun that we had, yeah. So we got that going on. August 24th, I believe. I'll probably need to double check that, and I'll link it in the show notes. Yeah, August 24th, 4 p.m. In Theater Macon, I think. Yeah, so that'll be fun. See an audience react.
Freaking proud of you, man.
Thanks, man.
That's great. It's great.
It's fun.
When you told me, I like flipped out. I was like, yes, this is awesome. How did it feel getting that email?
Oh, it feels good. And, it's always nice whenever someone's reacting to your work and saying, hey, we want to show it to our audience. And so I know Macon's an awesome place. Take a look around. It's a beautiful town. Like it's a gorgeous town. And so I'm hoping, it'll be a good time and connect with a bunch of other artists, which is all I really expect going to a festival. And so seeing the notification, I was like, oh, well, hell yeah, man. Let's go meet some awesome people. That's my big goal.
You get your leaves. You get your leaf
laurels,
wreath or whatever it is.
Yeah, laurel leaves.
Yes.
Yeah, so we got that going on. Also have an announcement. We've never done announcements on the show before, so this is kind of weird. But announcement, Patreon is getting a little update. Sorry, it's been like quiet for the last year and a half as I've been trying to figure out like what's a fun way to honor and appreciate our patronites on there. And so some new benefits. We'll be doing a couple of new things every month. One is we'll be doing short pilot episodes where Todd and I will do our normal coverage on a pilot. And so those will probably be, 20, 30-minute episodes to reflect the kind of content we're covering. And then we'll also be releasing a top 5 fun episode where we do random top 5s of things, like simple like top 5 MCU stuff, but also weird things like top 5 bicycle movies, like whatever that means to you. So that'll be fun. And then the thing that I'm really excited about is we'll do a once a month art group. So kind of like a writer's group, we'll do an online thing where I think it'll be second Mondays, but that'll probably be flexible based on what everyone's got going on. But every second Monday, ideally, we'll just do like a 2-hour group call where you work on whatever you're working on. If you're working on a script, working on your taxes, working on that. Ideally, it's something you've been putting off. Like, I need to carve out time to work on this passion project. And this will just be a time to come quietly work and just kind of an accountability group if you need that in your life, which I do. And so that'll be good for me. And if it's just me sitting alone for 2 hours, that's fine. But come and go as you want, that kind of thing. So that'll be available to all of our Patreon subscribers, which I think is like $2 a month.
So exciting.
Be a free option.
So exciting. I'm in.
Fun. Nice. Well, there's 2 of us then.
Yes.
Perfect for me.
Nice, sweet. Looking forward to it, man.
check the.
So one thing I wanted to bring up, unless you have something else you want to bring up, I wanted to talk about what we were talking about before this episode a little bit, because before we get into the meat of it, just for a couple of minutes, because I think it's super important. So you're more than a filmmaker, you're also a writer, and you finished multiple screenplays. The most recent one I absolutely adore, and I think it's fun and it's funny and it's brutal and it's honest, and it's like nothing like I've ever read before or maybe even seen before on a screen, like, because when you read in a screenplay, you're just picturing everything. And so, and now that it's done, we talked about, how do you get this into the hands of somebody who, can say, hey, let's make this. And one thing you were mentioning is an agent, because these studios don't just take unsolicited scripts. They have to come from an agent of some sorts who is there that has a relationship with someone in the studio who can say, this is worth your time. And you brought up an interesting scenario here, because like what I was thinking was, they just get thousands of these a week and there's no way they can have time to read them, which is definitely true. But there's another angle to why they would either not respond to you or respond and say no. And which I thought was really interesting, which was that it's like a legal thing. Could you explain that a little bit?
Sure. So you always are working against this idea of two people having the same idea at the same time, which happens all the time. The number of times I've seen my idea suddenly up on screen, I'm like, did they take my... And you're just like, no, that's just the world that we live in. People are having... And so if you start submitting your scripts to, whoever, you wrote your version of The Matrix and you send it to the Wachowskis and they're like, we cannot read your script. We're actually already working on something in that same vein. And to open ourselves up to that liability is not wise. And so if you're getting thousands of scripts, on the one hand, not only do you not have time, but you also just assume because it's coming in cold through the door that you just don't want it. Like if a salesman comes to your door offering you vacuum cleaners, your assumption isn't like, this is probably a really good vacuum cleaner and I just already have my own. You're just like, whatever the fact that they had to come to me already tells me I don't want it. So on that front alone, you're just cutting off a lot of wasted time. But then there's also this aspect of you don't want to open up yourself to some kind of liability issue of someone claiming you took their idea. Oh, well, I sent them my script, and you have this email that says you sent it to the Wachowskis, and your script is about a guy who's trapped in a simulation, and they took your idea of a guy trapped in a simulation, and they made the Matrix, and therefore they owe you a bunch of money. And that just becomes a massive headache. And so the best practice is to say, no, thank you, we're deleting your, or whatever. They may have a stock response. They may not. They may just delete it, and you never hear from them again. If you want to cold solicit, the better way to do it is to ideally literally say, here's my log line. Don't attach your script because that is just grounds for immediate deletion. But just to say, here's my log line. Let me know if you want to read the script. And if they do, they'll let you know. The odds are they won't. But if you have a really good log line, that's like, I am interested. Cool. Then there's a whole process for that. But yeah, there is some self-isolation to protect themselves, because the reality is even the ones that they are requesting aren't going to be good. And even the ones that they do request that end up being good, which is going to be a fraction of a fraction, right? Like, let's say 5% of the scripts that they request are actually good, are still not going to get made. Of that 5%, maybe another 5% go on to actually get an actual look, and the producer starts trying to put a package together. Like, it's so hard, because the reality is the way that they're putting together projects are on their own terms. A producer isn't looking for, there's this idea, and I just think it's bullshit. There's this idea that Hollywood is starved for good scripts. I think that's trash. I mean, I think they should be. I think they should be feeling the burn of starvation for good quality content. But the reality is the way that they go about creating their projects isn't reflecting that, isn't reflecting a need for looking for good scripts. It's reflecting a need for a project that they think they can sell. That's what they're doing. They're saying, okay, as a producer, I have an idea. I'm talking with this director and I'm talking with this actor. And suddenly I have a thing here that I can package together and I can sell. The way that so many filmmakers are able to make their stuff is by being an Ari Aster or by being a Christopher Nolan, where you've built your audience. We're going to show up to watch a Nolan film because it's Nolan. If I walked in with an Oppenheimer script, 5,000 pages long, half of it's in black and white, and I said, look what I got. It's immediate call for security. Like, they're not listening to me. But when Nolan says it, it's like people are signing up. You have Florence Pugh saying, yeah, I'll be in there for 20 minutes of your 3-hour movie, because it's Christopher Nolan. Like, he gets to make a $150 million art movie that wins Oscars. That's why he's Christopher Nolan. Yeah. It's because he made Memento, and when he made Memento, nobody fucking wanted it. Let that reflect the reality of what I'm talking about. Hollywood is not starved for good scripts. They're starved for, dollars. People that can sell a project. And if you can do that first, they'll give you whatever money you want. And so the way that I'm having to go through the system, and there is no one way. It's like being a musician. Every single story is going to be its own story of how they got to be a success, how they got radio play the first time. It's always going to be different. It's going to have echoes of being similar. And so there's no one way to become a money-making filmmaker. For me, it's my current route is I'm looking to just get representation through a million other like contests and festivals and meeting people and submitting screenplays to review sites. Like, I don't know how or if I'm ever going to get a breakthrough. I can tell you it'll be in a way that you've never heard of before. That's it. That's all I can guarantee. And so, yeah, that's sprinkles of what Todd and I were talking about beforehand. And you made a really good point about how similar it is in music, actually. The process of representation and just going on tour and the things that they're looking for. It all kind of sounds similar to me anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. I mean, you need representation for anybody to see you as serious or as like, or to give you their time. Right. And, if so-and-so who's a great manager who has managed a lot of different bands says, hey, you need to listen to this band. Okay. Now now I'll take a listen to this band. Or, hey, I know this band doesn't have a whole lot of following, but they will. I really believe in them. Okay, now let me listen to them with the notion that this person that I trust sees something in them. Which is basically like what social media is kind of doing. But yeah, it's pretty similar in the music world. Yeah, and you need representation if you want to get onto like, big tours and things like that.
And it all starts, and I've said this, I don't know, maybe half a dozen times on our 300 plus episodes, is it starts with a champion. At the end of the day, we all need a champion, someone that looks at what you're doing and says, I believe in you. I don't maybe understand everything that you're doing, but damn, I connect with it. And let me introduce you to someone. There's someone you got to meet. And so if there's someone like that in your life, man, just put them on. Whatever it is, just put them on and be like, you know what? I can't do what you do, but man, I like that you do it. And I'm going to put you on. I'm going to connect you. I'm going to vouch for you, whatever it is. We all need a champion.
Yeah, 100%. And, it's wonderful when you get it, but it's hard to get. It really is. Because then even those people are hard to get to.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like a manager or an agent, It's not super easy.
It's not.
Anyway, yeah, thank you for talking about that. Yeah.
No, I appreciate it, And so speaking of champions, what are we covering today, sir?
Lovely. Today we are covering Superman 2025, the James Gunn version. So if you haven't seen the film yet, please pause the episode and go do it. We're going to spoil a bunch of stuff. It's still in theaters as of the recording of this episode. So yeah, we don't want to mess anything up for you.
For sure. We'll dive into a handful of things. Definitely touch on some of the cinematography, talk about wide angles. We'll dive into some of the story and writing, talk about punk rock, rule of repeats, and other such stuff and things and stuff.
And a quick synopsis of the film. Superman must reconcile his alien Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing as reporter Clark Kent. As the embodiment of truth, justice, and the human way, he soon finds himself in a world that views these as old-fashioned. Written and directed by James Gunn, cinematography by Henry Braham, featuring David Corenswet as Superman, Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, Edi Gathegi, as Mr. Terrific, Sara Sampaio as Eve, and Skyler Gisondo as Jimmy.
Well done. Always an obstacle course getting through the names. No,
yeah, I like it when you correct me with something like Rafe, because that is ridiculous. By the way, Mr. Rafe Fiennes, you spell your name wrong. But some of these they could be whatever. Anyway.
Yeah, agreed. So no soundbite. Like I didn't find one that was pertinent enough to, I think, what our conversation is going to be. But I've been dying to hear your thoughts and opinions because, one, you're a big Superman fan. I think of the two of us, you're the Superman fan. And so, and two, you, before we even walked into the theater, like you'd already had thoughts and opinions and were throwing things out that I had no idea about. So I have no clue what you saw when you watched this movie. And by all means, let me in. Did you like it?
Okay. So there's a lot around this. Let me just set the stage here. So this, and I'm sorry, normally I would just say, this is what I think of it, but I just have to set the stage. So, because going and seeing a movie is an experience, guys. Like you go into a theater is different than watching something streaming at home. And you're gonna experience something different than if you were to just put it on on your TV. There are two theaters where I live. There's one that is a Cinemark that I normally go to, and then there's another one that I've never been to, but it's in Tiburon, which is like a little farther away, and it's a mom and pop theater.
Is that like in Moravia?
It's yeah. It's just like this tiny little place in a really like rich area. But it's this tiny little, locally owned theater. And I took my whole family, my wife and both my kids. Whoa. And she wanted to go to it. And I was like, yeah, we've gone to eat there a few times. Like, let's go. So I got the tickets to go there. Double the price, like much more expensive, but dude, it was so great. Like I loved the theater. It opened very much like Alamo. It had this whole thing about like this whole thing why you go to movies, and it was super corny and really dumb, and I was like, oh, this is Austin. And I looked at my wife and we were like, oh yeah, this is great.
That's awesome.
So it was a great setup. And I had my son sitting next to me, my daughter and wife sitting behind me. And it was just, it was great. We were seeing Superman, right? In a theater. Awesome. And we, we had these nice chairs and everything. So that I just set the stage for like this experience. Now, my other thing is that, and the thing that I mentioned on another episode is that I have seen changes that James Gunn has made to certain scenes and shots that were in the trailer. And the trailer is interesting because it doesn't really give away like what the whole story is about, but it does show you like very important moments, like all the big moments that happen in the movie, or a lot of them, come from or like in the trailer, but they're out of context. So you don't know, I mean, even the scene towards the end after the black hole scenario where he, the bus hits his duplicate and like it flies into the black hole and he rolls over. He's like, I am doing important stuff. Like that funny moment that's at the end. Right. But that's in the trailer. But then they also have the trailer opens with the first opening of the movie of him falling into the snow. So it's all over the place, but it doesn't tell you anything about the story. So I didn't really know much going in. I just, from these moments, there was like a moment where when people are hating on Superman, this guy throws a cup at the back of his head, and in the initial trailer, he blinks. And everybody said Superman wouldn't blink. He wouldn't even feel that, right? And so they took the blink out of the trailer and out of the movie digitally, which I thought, going in, I'm like, man, this is a guy that is not, he doesn't have an ego, right? I mean, sure he does. Everybody does. But like he wanted to make something for people and for himself. And so he's like, I'm not precious about this. You're right. You're right, internet. Yes, he wouldn't blink. And we missed that. So let's fix it. And they fixed it. And you're like, okay, man, that's pretty awesome. It kind of reminded me a little bit, and this is neither here nor there, of the whole Sonic the Hedgehog fiasco, where the first trailer, you didn't hear about this?
No.
The first trailer of Sonic the Hedgehog came out, the first movie back in, I don't know, it was like 2018 or something. Everybody flipped out because his teeth, he like looked too human. Like his teeth were all were all like human and so the internet, and his eyes were all human. So the internet flipped out. Yeah. So they re-CG'd all of him. Right. And I thought, oh, that's cool. And I like the Sonic movies. I think they're fun for kids and everything. Nice. And they're cheesy and dumb and whatever. But anyway, so all that to be said, I went in there holding no expectation, but holding out that this is going to be made by somebody who just really loves Superman and wants to make something, unique, but like, his own thing. Okay. All that to be said, let me start with the bad stuff. The exposition was awful. I mean, like, how many times have we talked about exposition on this podcast? Almost every single week. And almost every time they do it wrong. Like, the filmmakers do it wrong. And this is a great example of that. Like, there's just constant explanation when there doesn't need to be. Or if there needs to be, it's too on the nose and it's too, he's doing this. Why is he doing that? Because of this. And like, I understand you are trying to also appeal to people who maybe are only going to the movies because it's Superman and normally don't go, right? Mm-hmm. This is not a movie for you and I.
Right.
Let's be clear.
Mm-hmm.
For a film for Todd and Wes is not a movie like this. This is a film for like my wife who doesn't go to movies, for my kids who go to movies, but they're kids, right? Like, they need a little bit of exposition. They need, more explanation as to what's happening, because this is a complicated thing. A lot is happening in this movie. They're talking about borders and conflicts in other parts of the world, and meeting with world leaders, and interviewing someone as Superman, but he's really Clark Kent, and like making sure that like that whole, it's on the record. What does that mean? If I'm a kid, I don't really know what on the record means or off the record means. Like, there needs to be a lot of explanation around all of that. And so all that to be said, that was brutal for me. I'm sitting there thinking, you are killing this character for me. You're killing this movie by telling me everything that I need to know. And there's no better way to get me out of it than that. I know it is on point and it is like, important, but I hated the Justice Gang. Mm-hmm. I know that it is necessary for a lot of reasons. One, it's not all about Superman. Two, they need to introduce other characters, because I'm sure there's going to be a universe with these other characters involved in some capacity. Maybe only Mr. Terrific, because he was in it mostly. I liked better than the other two.
Yep.
Green Lantern's haircut, I know it is exactly what it's supposed to be, and it is like that in the comics, but it is atrocious, and it makes me angry just seeing it. It's like brutal. And then Falcon, like, I hated her. I hated her.
Yeah.
Hawkgirl, I hated her. Absolutely hated her.
Really?
Her. I hated her. And I know who it is.
Yeah,
she's in Last of Us.
Mm.
She's a great actor.
Mm-hmm.
She's a great actor. I hated her character. I hated the way they shot her. I hated the scream that she does. I hated everything about her. Just, they didn't give her enough, you know? You barely see her without, like, not in her costume. She's like not even there, basically. So I didn't have a reason to really like her. So I'm sitting here thinking, okay, well, if I didn't like Green Lantern's bowl cut, right? Like, which is all you see when you see him. I liked his power. I liked what he could do with his power a lot. And I didn't like Hawkgirl. You know, why have the entire league? Why not just have Mr. Terrific? You know, the only reason I could think is, or one of the biggest reasons is they're going to have spinoffs, right? And I like that Green Lantern is a jerk, you know, why not? But anyway, so there's that. Let me say some good things though, because I had a great experience watching this film at the same time. You know, I just wanted to get all that out of the way because everything that I say now is going to be like with a grain of salt, that like everything around all these good things is really painful because of the exposition. It literally kills movies for me, like just kills it. And so I'm having to sit multiple times. I'm watching this and I'm having to take myself out of watching it to remind myself where I am and who I'm with. Right? I'm like, oh my God. There were a couple moments where I was like, oh my God, don't, please. And they do it. And I'm like, oh God, it's okay. I'm sitting next to my son and my whole family, and we're in this great theater, and this is a wonderful experience. Okay. And then it would get back into something that's really super cool. You know, I like the bad guys. I forget their names, but the
Ultraman, and then you had
the girl though.
Lex,
The engineer. Really like the engineer. The girl who can turn into anything.
Yeah. Okay. She's called the
with
engineer.
nanobites.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
The engineer. Yeah. I really like her a lot. And I think that they're going to do something with her because she's not dead.
Right.
They said that she was unconscious when she fell, when they hit the ground and she fell in the hole.
Yeah.
She's unconscious, but then we never see her again. So I think they're going to do something with her, which is great because she was a great character.
Yeah.
She was the only one that could really like almost killed Superman. Like, you know, and that was an really interesting way to do that. You know, like normally in the original Supermans, it was always some form of kryptonite, you know, or something of that nature to kill him. And that was literally the only thing that could do it. And now, like, cause he could get hurt or lose a battle, but he couldn't die, you know, but now like this is a real, you know, tangible thing that could kill him. Now it wouldn't be because of lack of oxygen, which is what I think they got wrong. They were like, oh, he can hold his breath for an hour. He goes up to space and he flies to other planets, and so does his cousin. It's going to take longer than an hour. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's not about oxygen. It's about like the damage it can do or something. But it was interesting, needless to say. So, so that was interesting. And I really like her. I think the Lex's motivation was really too complex. It didn't give me a, oh, I understand and I resonate with that kind of feeling. Do you know what I mean? Which is what the really good villains make you feel. They make you feel like, oh, I can understand that. Thanos. I don't agree with it, but I can understand it. You know what I mean? So there was that. But the thing that I loved that James Gunn did is he made it funny. He made it human, and he made Superman more human than most other Supermans, so like Snyder's was, I loved Man of Steel, and I don't know, I know the critics, some critics or whatever just didn't. I loved it. I love the grittiness. We've talked about it on this podcast of whenever a superhero movie like Logan or Man of Steel is like dark and gritty and brutal, I really love that. Makes me feel like this hero has gone through it. This does not have that at all. None of it. So if you like that kind of thing, you're going to hate this movie. This is much more lighthearted. And I think it gets away with it because we come into it after everything, and he introduces it 30 years ago, 3 years ago, 3 months ago, 3 weeks ago, 3 minutes ago. I thought that was really actually interesting and cool. Yeah. We don't need any backstory. We've had, 70 years of backstory of Superman. We don't need any of it. Let's start from the first time he gets his ass kicked. Perfect. Awesome. We are already in it, great. I thought it was, I loved the humor of it. And I did see an interview with Corenswet where he was saying, that the reason they chose, and he was part of the decision to have the trunks on the outside of the original, like the original that had the trunks on the outside, was to make him more approachable. Cause like, who's this goofy dude wearing underwear on the outside of his clothes? Oh, okay. It, as opposed to, Snyder's, where his suit is like shiny and he's polished and it's hard and his muscles are bulging. The suit's almost baggy on him, and so he does feel very approachable. By the end of the film, I was like, I actually like Corenswet as Superman. I actually really enjoyed it. There were moments that I just didn't buy his delivery on things, but when he was really angry, I really liked it. So when the dog got stolen and he busts into Luthor's office and he was like, "Where's the dog?" Now we're talking. Now you're angry. Now you have an emotion that you can't control, or that you're trying to control. Right. And I see that, and I felt it in that scene. But there are others, towards the end where, he's talking to Luthor. He like flies into Luthor's off, or like whatever, this flying office thing. And he's telling Luthor, whatever he's telling him. And I just didn't really buy that. So, but the thing I do love that Corenswet did is that he has this this like goofy, like fallible humanity to him, that I didn't really get from
Cavill.
From what's his name? Cavill. I didn't get any of that from Cavill. Cavill's so badass.
Yeah.
Honestly, he is the perfect Man of Steel for Man of Steel, right? Right. But as Superman, who in the comics is supposed to be, it's supposed to be kind of like humorous and funny and goofy, and he fails a lot and he messes up and stuff, and we get a lot of that. So in this, all that to say, and I'll stop talking, is that the experience of watching this film was fantastic, which made the film much easier to like and to find really good things about it. I loved the dog. I really think it was necessary. And yes, were there things that were not the best? Of course. But I think that James Gunn and Corenswet, they came at this from a position of, I don't care what anybody else thinks of Superman. I have loved this character for a long time, and this is how I see it, and this is how I'm going to make it. Does that forgive things like exposition? No, because I'm sure, like, James Gunn wrote and directed this. You can't have other people look through this and make suggestions. You have to be the one, to like the final say. Like, come on, man. Like, it's one thing to make a superhero movie because you love it and you want to make something that you love and that you think people will love. It's another thing to have too much pride and not run it through filters of other people to say, to say, this is what would make this better. This is a great direction, right? The direction, the bed of who Superman is great. But the things around it, are just too complex for the audience that you're saying that this is for. You're dumbing this down with exposition for audiences that don't normally go to movies or for kids. But it's still too complex of a plot everywhere for people who don't go to movies often and for kids. So you have this thing that just rubs wrong in a lot of places. And so when I got home, the last thing I'll say is when I got home, I was telling my son, I was like, I want to watch that again. Not necessarily because I want to see it again, but because I want to understand it a little bit better. I felt like a second viewing. And did you see this twice?
I did.
Okay. I felt like maybe a second viewing might give me a little bit more. I don't know, but I'm interested to see what you thought. I think you're going to tear it apart. That's what I think. But I'll pause for a minute. You tell me what you think.
That's a fair assumption just because I am not a Superman fan. Like as a kid, I remember people would put it on, and this is all I did as a kid. I listened to music, I played sports, and I watched movies and read a lot of books. Like that was it. Like that was all and for you to put on a movie that I hadn't seen, and for me to be like, yeah, I don't want to do that. That says so much. And I hated Superman as a kid. Like I just could not stand it. Yeah, I mean, it was just so boring. Like, and I thought it was super cheesy. Like no part of me ever, the only parts of Superman I ever enjoyed was when Richard Pryor was on screen, which I think is the most hated Superman of all time, right? Like everyone hates that Superman.
I loved it.
And I was like, okay, but it's Richard Pryor's on screen. I'm good. And I would basically just stop watching or paying attention if he wasn't on screen. Even with Gene Hackman on screen, I was like, I don't care. But when that was it. That's the extent of my joy. Man of Steel was the first time I was like, it wasn't terrible. That was kind of as much as I could give it. It was just like, it wasn't awful. Otherwise, he's such an unbearable character to me. He's, impervious to anything. He's super like corny, and you can't hurt him. And so every time they try to make you think he's in danger, you never feel like he's in any danger. And so walking in, I had such low expectations that it would be really hard to get underneath those expectations. And my surprise is that I actually liked the movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I wouldn't say I loved it. But my second viewing was so much kinder because my first viewing, I spent a good 35% of the movie, statistically speaking, rolling my eyes at like the humor. Like,
okay. Same.
I hated the dog. Like I was just like, oh God, pet humor is just so not funny to me. And so there was just so much that just wasn't working, but there was just enough working. Like to me, this is definitely punk rock. Like I love that it was sincere. It wasn't edgy and dark for the sake of being edgy and dark, because let's face it, this whole Zack Snyder version had nothing interesting or honest to say through its tone. It was doing tone for the sake of being emo. And it was just so yawn. Like, get the hell out of here. It's boring. He didn't have a view of life or a philosophy or anything interesting to say through that concept. And the dog, even though I hated the dog, it was still important because this was a tonal shift. This is fun DC. And in the very opening, they let us know that this is going to be a different DC moving forward. This is this is friendly DC. You can bring your kids to it, and you're going to have a good time. And so this is a welcome. This is a broad tent. And we really needed that. Honestly, I think the biggest problem with this movie is the fact that it's a superhero movie. Like I'm just fatigued on superhero films. That's its only real issue. If this movie had come out in 2005, I would have been like, you know what? That was a hell of a good time. Sign me up for the next one. And I'm still kind of on that bandwagon. Like, I'm still like, you know what? I don't think I'll ever watch this movie again. But I can't wait to see what the next Superman is, actually. Like, for the first time in my life, am looking forward to another Superman and to seeing this character on screen. Because even the title card felt like a throwback to OG Christopher Reeve Superman, right? That little blendy.
Oh yeah.
Right? That's a completely old school throwback. And I was like, that's a hat tip to who we are and who we're not. And I love that. And even though the humor is not for me, it still wasn't intolerable. Like, I understood why it's there. And so I was like, okay, that's what I'm signing up for. Now I know going forward, this is what I'm signing up for. And I can make my peace with that. And it's like, okay, in the same way that the exposition was driving you nuts, it didn't really drive me that crazy, just because I was like, I kind of was coming in expecting like this lowbrow audience approach. Like, you know what? Let's make sure we don't lose Aunt Susie in the back because she brought her nieces and nephews to watch a superhero movie. And it's like, no, what's this now? He can fly? Like, that's kind of what I expect. So I was like, you know what? Fine. You're going to have people in the control room shouting out like, here's what's happening now. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And so I was just not really rolling my eyes at that at all, actually. I was just annoyed with like the slow door gag. For the millionth time, I've seen enough slow door gags to last a lifetime, and it's just tired. Like Spider-Man, Spider-Verse did that gag recently, right? And it's like, that worked. It was a slightly fresh take on it, and I was like, you know what? Okay. And they didn't drag it out, and so it's like, oh, I'm good, but, it still got some laughs. I was in a packed out theater last night, sitting next to a 4-year-old, like, man, and surprisingly, she was solid. Her dad was not. That dude kept leaning down, talking to his daughter, who seemed pretty disinterested in the movie, but didn't say a word the entire movie. She squirmed not even 30 minutes in. The squirming started, and she was like, she went from sitting upright to found a way to lay down completely because we have the reclining seats. She found a way to like slide down and completely get, sideways. And so it was mildly entertaining, but also like, yeah, stop it over there. But whatever. That's the kind of stuff you're doing that exposition for, to your point. And I was like, it's fine, whatever. The dog jokes are not amusing to me, but what I did appreciate was at least the dog's personality did play a role in the story. Corny, sure, but at least it was utilized in a way that counted, because it ended up manifesting with like taking down Ultraman. Like, that's how he got taken down, was let's cut off his access to the brain, right? Because now if brain is smarter than defeats brawn, well, let's cut off the brain. And we'll come back to that. I also found Eve super annoying, and even though she was annoying, she was not wasted. That's Lex Luthor's girlfriend, who's like got the hots for Jimmy, which was a whole like, what? Okay, I guess. That's out of nowhere whatsoever, but okay. But her whole character felt odd still to be with Lex. Like, she wasn't wasted. They used that in a meaningful way to help, Superman win. But it still felt odd for her to be with Lex and hanging out in the supervillain place. Why? Okay, that's a strange one. It felt like we're going to use comedy, but not waste the comedy to help tell the story. Cool, I guess. I felt like he was really, turning the gears with all his might as a storyteller there, James Gunn. And so my biggest problem with Superman is always going to be that you never really fear for his safety. And so I did forget about the lung thing. I thought that was awesome. But beyond that, like, there's they're not really putting Superman into impossible situations. Like, I knew immediately that he would talk the Element Man Metamorpho into helping him out of the cage. Like, not for 1 second did I say, how's he getting out? Oh, they're leaving another guy in there with him. Yeah, the goodness of Superman is absolutely going to get through to that guy. And I had no idea who he was or what he was going to do. But I just was like, okay, here we go. That's not even a challenge. I knew he'd get out of the black hole. I didn't know how. And I just didn't care. But I did not know how he'd kill Ultraman. Like, that was interesting. But it took me a little while to understand why Ultraman was even kicking his butt. Like, I knew Lex was using Superman's DNA, and it took me a few beats, but like, oh yeah, obviously he cloned Superman. That took me a few more beats than it probably should have, to be fair. But part of all of that was also me just not super caring about this universe, and I was just there to I was full in Todd mode. I was just along for the ride. I was like, I could not care less about anything. So do what you want, do your worst. And so that was fun. This version of DC may have some solid storytelling to start getting excited about. That was kind of my big takeaway. Overall, I am fatigued on superhero movies, but if they are really saying, let's finish our scripts, let's know what we're making before we start trying to make it, you know what? That's something to be interested in, because this was a 2-hour movie instead of a 2.5 hour. Like, DC has gotten way out of hand with their crazy runtimes that aren't necessary. This felt like a very tight story. Like, there wasn't a lot to cut out. And I respect that. I appreciate that as a person signing up for a movie. Like, if Jurassic Park can do what it does in 2 hours, you better really justify anything over that. Like, that's a landmark movie that's got a lot going on, a lot of story. You know what? So that's kind of your benchmark. Do you need more than Jurassic Park? If so, you better have a really good story and something really to say. So I think the second viewing helped me a lot, because once I got into it, understanding where the humor was going, it didn't bother me anymore. I was like, okay, this can be a little bit more fun. I love Alan Tudyk. Anytime you have Alan Tudyk playing some robot or character, like, you're going to win. Like, you already kind of have me on your side. Hell yeah. So that's my overall, point by point, like, you know what? I'm kind of excited for where Superman's going.
Dude, I am blown away right now. I am absolutely blown away. I don't know. I don't even know what to say, because, like, we normally are so aligned with things like exposition. And I had my family there to like my son next to me to like forgive it, right? But you didn't, and you're just as sensitive to this thing as me. So like, what is it? Because you know what I'm talking about.
Oh,
like, you heard it.
It was all over the place.
So why do you feel like it didn't bother you as much?
It was because I really loved so many elements that Gunn was going for. And to me, it circles around punk rock. And I love that, because they're asking a lot of important questions throughout the movie about who Superman is. And so you need to raise those questions of, was he sent here to hurt us? Or is he the person we think he is? Are we being groomed? Right? And they're using some of that modern, stupid vocabulary to surface these questions. But most importantly, it's taking place through Lex, Luthor, and Lois Lane. A lot of alliteration there, for sure. And Lois, I love her character so much, not just because it's Rachel Brosnahan, who I'm on the fence of in terms of, should she have done a superhero movie? I think yes. I think she's talented enough to be helming her own stuff, but this is the kind of thing that'll get her cred, so that maybe audience would show up for her own movies, and she's been killing it in TV, and now maybe this is an opportunity to take the next step and maybe helm some really cool art projects. She's super, super crazy talented, and so I'm excited about her. But then beyond that, Lois as a character, first time I've ever loved Lois as a character, because they let her be a journalist, an actual journalist. She questions Superman every step of the way, like the fact that he's intervening. Like, should you be intervening? That's someone else's country. Like, did you get permission from their president? Did you get permission from our own country? Should you? And he's like, well, what Baravia is doing. She's like, do I know that? He's like, they're not, they're being like crazy silly. And she's like, of course I know that, but there's the difference between what I think and what I know. And I love that she's drawing a line in the sand about what good journalism is. And so once you start putting that stuff out there, you're going to win me over for sure. But letting a journalist on screen actually be a journalist and her values is just awesome. And it also plays in this universe because a scrutinous person is an amazing thwart to Superman's perfection. You need that character to come in and start poking holes, right? And she's a great advocate for an anti-Superman audience like me, right? So make him answer difficult questions and have someone call him out for being a cheeseball, right? You trust everyone and think everything is beautiful. And that's our thesis, right? Because what does he respond with? Maybe that's the real punk rock. God, that's so cool, because this is our defining philosophical stakes, which is perfect for a new revamp of the DC universe. Is it cool to just be cool? Or is it cool to be sincere and to trust people and to find beauty in life? Is being a good, kind person the real cool? Because Snyder's version of Superman and superheroes was, it's cool to just have a cool look and to be invincible and to do a bunch of slow motion where we see things bouncing off of the Man of Steel. That's boring. That's what the reality was. That's incredibly boring. And what's really cool is being vulnerable and being open and loving things. Loving things is so punk rock. And listen, I'm not some big punk rock, connoisseur. So maybe I'm getting this wrong. What made punk rock really cool was that it was doing its own thing, even if that meant being sincere. But it wasn't just like we're rebelling because rebelling is cool. We're rebelling because we think consumerism is shit. And you've gotten so locked up in the perfection of music. The imperfection is where it's at. And so I love that they're approaching this idea of stop trying to make everything so perfect, embrace the imperfections, which is a whole huge spiel that, Superman gave him, Lex Luthor at the end. My imperfections are my greatest strength. And that's amazing. And so Superman is valuing life. Squirrels. I think he saves a squirrel at one point.
He saves a squirrel.
And he's saving pets, right? And he's saving people. And they're all, to him, weighted equally. He even sacrifices his own personal liberty to rescue Krypto the dog, who's a big pain in the ass. But he does it because he values, that moment where he's like, empathizing with what the Krypto the dog is feeling. He's scared.
Yeah.
Ooh. I hate this dog, but you know what? I don't want him scared. It's not even about he might die. It's I don't want him feeling these feelings. That's so cool. What a great empathetic thing to shed to adults and kids. Everyone should be feeling those feelings. That's so cool. Lex Luthor, by contrast, does not value life, animal or human alike, right? He's keeping Krypto alive to study it before he kills it. And one of my favorite lines in the entire movie, if not my favorite line, is Frank Grillo. I forget who he's playing, some sergeant or something. And I'm waiting to see where his character goes. But he says as Superman's being arrested, and he's like, what about my rights? And this guy says, rights don't apply to extraterrestrial organisms. And I freaking love this line because it's a real belief that we're seeing in real time about the idea that only certain people get access to our rights. When, of course, if this were true, then government can now have a case to remove your rights through declaring you no longer being a citizen. If they can just make a case that you're no longer a citizen, they can suddenly steal your rights, right? Label them a terrorist. And terrorists have no rights. And where do you put terrorists? You put them in a pocket universe, which is, to me, looking at this, it's a metaphor for our own black site renditions, like Gitmo and all kinds of operations all over the world. And if we just take our alleged terrorists to foreign soil under the guise that this makes it legal, as if the Constitution only applies within our jurisdiction, or that the Geneva Conventions don't touch on this very thing, like, you can suddenly do whatever you want. It's no longer illegal. You can do inhumane, evil acts if you just, carve out a little space where none of those things count here. And that's not the way rights work. And this is why it's important to make sure our government isn't restrained by our land. It's restrained by our philosophy embedded in the Constitution. We are a nation of laws. We're not a nation of land. And this movie is touching on all these very real things. And that's why it won me over. It's because it's got...
Well, that's also why a lot of people are saying it's like the woke Superman.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Have you seen this?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, which I totally disagree with.
Yeah, no, it's taking really interesting ideas and it's embedding them in humanitarianism, right? Like Lex hates Superman and he screams it, right? Because you're destroying us. And I love Superman as an American icon because, and I'm sure if that's the conversation you're talking about that's happening, I'm sure the rebuttal is something along the lines of Superman's an immigrant who came here and poured his soul into making a better place, which is our actual history. Our country is a nation of immigrants. This is not a new idea. It's a melting pot. And I love that his rebuttal is, I'm as human as anyone, flaws and all, and that's my greatest strength. Superman declaring that just because he's not from here doesn't mean he doesn't belong. He's assimilated despite the intentions of the people who sent him here, right? Because Paul Kent says your choices, your actions make you who you are. And that's awesome. And if that's true, which I would love to hear the counter argument to that, and maybe there is one and I'm just not thinking about it, but if that is true, which I believe it is, Lex is not human. And human in this universe is a metaphor, I think, for being an American. Like the things that makes Clark Kent, Superman, an American and a human are the very things that make Lex not human. And it's funny that you have this alien being more human than Lex because this dude doesn't value human life. Why would you think he's a good representation of anything you want to follow along with? And so there's this whole conversation going through the film about being punk rock, being human. And I love that it ends the exact opposite of the way it begins. Whenever Superman gets into his seat and he's healing, at the beginning, he's being played the footage, the soundbite from his parents back on Krypton. When we end this experience, it's him back in the seat healing, and we're listening now and watching footage with his parents to Iggy Pop singing punk rock. I'm a punk rocker. Yes, I am. Right. Like Superman now finds comfort in his true parents, the Kents, because that's who he really is. Superman didn't influence Clark Kent. Clark Kent influenced Superman. Oh, that's nice. I think
so good. It's so good. That for me, that's what this movie it really is. It's you are your actions. You're not even what you think you are. You are what you do. Because like when he saw the second half of that message, he thought, is that who I am? Is that who I'm supposed to be? And his dad, there's a dog. His dad says, I can't be any prouder. You are what you do. Sorry, there's a dog barking. You are what you do. And I think I totally agree with you. That is truth, because we can think we're one way, but then in the moment when we're needed, we can sacrifice ourselves for somebody else. And that's who we are. We're a hero in that regard. So because of that, and I think that's the whole defining aspect of this film and what I like to latch onto. And I love that you brought up the ending of him healing 2 images of his life on Earth. Because what was some of my favorite moments were with the parents, were with the Kents, the mom screaming into the phone. I several times I turned around and was like looking at Jenny like, oh my God, this is so a conversation with my father, and my mom just like screaming into the phone. I really identified with that. And I love that he embraced that at the end. So, like for me, the exposition killed it, but like it didn't kill the meaning of what I think that you're spot on what this movie is talking about, which is we all can be like this. We all can make the decision to do these great things, to metaphorically save the squirrel, which to me, it was corny as hell. It was so corny and not necessary.
Yeah. No.
But it was.
Yeah.
Because it was important. Obviously everybody loves dogs. And I know, you found Crypto annoying. I didn't find him annoying because I know dogs like that, because I've had a dog like that.
Yeah.
And but this dog at least at some point helps, right? Yeah. My dog never did. But I was just
not
freaking annoying.
He was there for the corns and the ice.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I get why he would be motivated to save that dog, which by the way was not his dog, and he called out that it was a foster situation or something, and we didn't know what that was until the end when his cousin comes out, Supergirl, and which is awesome. I loved that moment. Like, I came to get my dog, and then she just like is off. But we needed to see him save the smallest life, right? This tiny thing where nobody would care if it died. Like nobody would know. But he knew, and he made the decision in that moment to save that thing. So while it was corny and seemingly unnecessary, now we know his motivation is all life, to save all life. And I love that he is given that choice by knowing now what the full message from his parents was. The full message was something else. And I think they made it very clear that was real. Yeah. Right. There was even Mr. Terrific said, it's real. Everybody is saying that it's real. I can tell it's real. So this is a very different Krypton, very different, Kryptonian parents, very different motivation. So now we have this superhero, this Superman, who did not come from a good place, has been raised by good people. So it's nurture, not nature. Yeah. Which says a totally different, story here. Now Superman Clark Kent has the choice, and but maybe even because of the choice, and his decision, he is Superman. He is Superman because he has made that choice. He came here for a different reason, but he's choosing to ignore that reason, the nature part of it, and to embrace the nurture part, which is to love people, to love life, and to be punk rock, right? And all this talk about punk rock reminds me, I remember, just a little thing. Do you remember when Green Day came out with Time of Your Life, whatever it is, Good Riddance? Oh, yeah, that's right. That song? Yeah. And they were shunned by the punk rock community. The punk rock community, they already hated Green Day because Green Day went,
popular,
popular, Stratospherically, thank you. Popular. They already were on the outs, but then they put out that song. And I remember seeing an interview with the bass player, and the bass player said, "What's more punk rock than that?"
Boom.
Than the punk rock community saying, "You're not punk rock." And you saying, "Fuck you. I'm going to do what I want." That is punk rock. And if that means putting out an all acoustic song that defines a generation, that there's no more punk rock than that. So that was my first like moment of thinking, oh, punk rock is not, there's no definition to it.
That's so funny.
It literally is no definition. And then for this movie to like really embrace that, and for him to have that moment and saying maybe that's the real punk rock. I loved that moment. And even Jenny and I talked about it at the end, or like afterwards, we talked about, I love that moment where he said, maybe that's the real punk rock. It's really the more we talk about it, even the more that I really like it, like, I hate the exposition. There will never be a conversation I can have that can explain that away. And I think even Luthor is guilty of it. But that being said, I think the bones are there. You're right.
Yeah, the bones are there. And I love Nicholas Hoult. I thought he crushed it. Like, that's probably the best Lex Luthor I've seen.
Agreed.
As a character, he's so cartoony. Like, he just hates Superman for the sake of hating Superman. So to your point about like his whole thread of what he's doing and why, I definitely need more than that for this to be like a great movie. And it's just like kind of begging you to go along with, this guy hates Superman just because he finds him threatening or something. I don't know. Even that could have been better fleshed out, because he's such a one-note character that you don't see any humanity or way to connect with him in order to buy that fear. And if you're talking about someone acting out of fear, you do need something human. You need something in there to connect with, instead of just being this person who only spits out vile, who's going to let the city crumble. He's like, I don't even like Metropolis. We'll stop it when it gets to a city I care about. Like, what? Oh, I mean, I guess that is the complete antithesis of your superhero, but I don't know if I can find anything in this guy that, meanwhile, you have Superman trying to redeem the engineers. Like, you don't have to do this. Neither one of you, and that's fun. That's interesting. Him trying to even save the kaiju, which that little headline after they kill him, Superman kills the Thing. That's pretty funny, because it's a shot at Marvel. That's entertaining. But him trying to save the big monster, like, that's kind of entertaining and interesting and on key, with this character. Yeah, there's a lot. The more I think about it, the more I like it. It's just funny that I would rather think about it than rewatch it.
I get it. There were a couple of moments, man, that I will forever, maybe not forever, but I will remember for a long time. Yeah. And there, a couple of them were in the trailer. So like the moment where he saves the little girl, when he puts himself between the explosion or whatever, the canisters and the little girl, and they do the slow motion moment, his hair is whipping around. It's like very action based. I love that shot. That shot for me is the best shot in the whole movie. It just says everything that you need to know about who this guy is supposed to be. He's going to put himself between you and harm every time. And he's going to like always be there for the smallest life. I think it's just really a beautiful moment.
By contrast, my favorite shot is him rising out of the dust from the building that he
that's so
saved.
Epic. That is so epic.
Watches in the rear view. Oh, I was like, yes.
That is, and it's almost like Messiah-esque, kind of like, like totally, I completely agree. It's a wonderful shot too.
Great.
I'll
I'll get to my last like two notes basically are there's a rule of repeats going here. First off, and so you have one. It's just kind of interesting. You have a good Superman versus bad Superman, because there's two Supermans in here, and there's the one who is doing what he thinks is right, and you have another one who's doing what he's told. How cool is that? Because Superman was sent here by his parents to do one thing, and he's doing what he thinks is right. And then you have another Superman who rises and is doing the thing that he's sent to do by Lex Luthor, his parent, the one who created him, right? And so that's a very fascinating mirror image that's happening there. That's really cool. The other rule of repeats that's happening is the black hole, which I didn't catch on first viewing, but we see the black hole twice. The first time, Superman almost gets sucked into it, and that's when they introduce us to one way to kill Superman. Like, he's shouting, he's like needing help, because if he gets pulled in, he cannot get back out. He makes that very clear, and he's distraught. And of course, this Superman, to me, the other thing that I never like about him is he always comes across as like someone who's just a taskmaster. He's just having to do a million things. Oh, I gotta save that kid. I gotta save the cat out of the tree, and blah blah blah. And now I got a baby, and they do that. Don't get me wrong, they do that so much in this movie. And they give him the baby. Like, it's not enough for him to try to get out, but they got to give him something to save and rescue and to put above himself, and that's the baby. And he's like, take the kid, and of course, Metamorpho ends up saving them both, which is nice. Reflects well on Metamorpho. And so he's stuck in there, but they're introducing this idea of he cannot escape it. And therefore, we see him get out. Well, we need to, if you see a Superman get out, you need to see a Superman go in. And so the rule of repeats is in effect here, because that's how he defeats Ultraman, right? By knocking him into the black hole. And this is an element of the whole brain beats brawn. Right, Lex introduces that idea as he's pummeling Superman, and then Superman ultimately uses Lex's own idiom and science against him, because the very thing that Lex introduced to take down Superman is the thing that takes down his own Superman. Now, they do have another long-term issue, which I really hope they find a way to just not use, which is, once Lex has Superman's DNA, he's got it forever. Now, are we going to just keep seeing 1,000 Ultramans? Like, God, I hope not. Let that one go into the black hole and never escape, because that is going to be boring. Or maybe not. Maybe he'll do something more interesting with it, but do something else. Like, the Engineer is so much cooler and more interesting. I hope they go somewhere fun with that. Yeah. Anyway, that's the first note. The other note is cinematography, wide angles. They go to the extreme, and it's kind of fun. It's kind of silly, right? Looking at them, and that's a fun way to approach the superhero movie. They're giving it this kind of jittery, bright, lots of color. It's family friendly, on immediate look. I can take my kids to that. I don't know what it's going to be about, but I know, and they get as close to the line as they can. They shoot a guy in the head. And they do it from wide.
I felt a little awkward.
Yeah, that's a rough one. And it's like, okay, let's get as wide and far away as we can from that, and we'll show some shock. We'll see the reactions from people in the arena, so to speak. And okay, and otherwise, that's about as dicey as it gets, I think, in the movie. We see a heavy makeout session between Lois and Clark, but I don't know if there's anything that you got too squeamish about otherwise. But I think a lot of that's communicated through the camera angles, the exposure, right? It's very bright, lots of color filling out the screen, and it's cool. It's interesting, I think, because it's so opposite from how we've seen Superman over the last 30 years. Like, let's see him in a different light. And then it adds a really interesting energy whenever you're cutting around with all these wide angles, cutting from like an extra a wide to a wide close-up, because the lens itself is wide, the angle is close, and so it's like a very interesting thing to cut from one to the other. If you're using wide angles and cutting to wide, it's like, what is going on? And so it adds an interesting energy to it, especially in that final scene, him healing in the chair, and you're just in the same kind of, it feels jump cutty, but it plays. It's, it's doing its own thing. And I'm interested to see where it goes next. I don't know. That's all I got.
Yeah. Yeah. So me sitting in that, just to address what you were talking about, me sitting in the theater with my kids who are 12 and 9, I'm always very awkward when people are like making out or there's like sexual innuendos and stuff with my kid. Like, it's weird. Like, that's the thing that makes me awkward. Like, a little bit of violence is fine, but like that, like, I think probably because I know they're going to come in contact with that more than maybe the other. I don't know. But yeah, the moment where that guy gets shot in the head, I think is necessary because we need to see Luthor be evil for the sake of being evil and have no like emotion about it. Like you said, he doesn't care about human life at all. He's the antithesis of Superman. So we kind of need to see that. So, and then we also need to see, I thought it was a beautiful moment, Superman's reaction. He cried, he has tears running down his face. And I thought that was really not just important, but like beautiful. And it was, that made it okay for me to be sitting next to my kids watching this, because like, it's one thing to have violence for the sake of violence. It's another thing to have it for a reaction to it. And the reaction was, being upset, like, this is not a good thing. The message is, this is not a good thing and I have to stop it. That's good. Now you have a reason for having that violence that you're communicating to the audience. So yeah, I thought that was, and I also loved the guys before he gets shot, him telling Superman, don't tell him anything. Don't give him anything. Oh yeah. I'm proud. Like, I was like, I'm proud that you ate my food. Like, the thing that brought him joy, brought Superman joy. And that's what he was there for. And he's happy, like, that's all he wanted. And I loved that. I get like emotional thinking about it, but I loved that real reaction. He was a Superman in that moment. He was saying, it's better to not give him more because other people will die if you give him more. Like, that's basically what he was saying. Yeah. And he sacrificed himself. I did also, to your comment about cinematography, and I talked to Simon, my son, about this afterwards. I was like, I like some of the camera movements that they did, like right before Superman busts out the window. They're straight on him, and then they pan all the way to the side so that when he punches out the window, you see the glass fly across the screen. Yeah. It was very action based. It's all one shot, and it's in the trailer or one of the trailers or something. But and he was like, yeah, I really like that. It's really, he didn't say this, but it's really dynamic. It's like really action based or whatever. So, and they did that a lot throughout it. Another thing they fixed was his eyes when he's flying. He looked really goofy in the trailer because his eyes were like kind of like not straight. They were kind of like out and aligned. And so they fixed his eyes while he's flying super fast, That's
funny.
So I like that.
Whenever anyway, I assume that's a result of having a wide angle that close to your
probably.
face.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so hilarious.
So man, I've honestly really loved this conversation because I came into this having this like visceral reaction to the exposition, but there's so much other great stuff about this movie that I kind of want to just forgive that and I kind of just want to embrace all the other good stuff that you brought up and look at it through that lens, because I think it is I think that James Gunn did what he set out to do, which is say, this is a new DC. Mm-hmm. This is a brighter, more positive form of superhero storytelling, and get on board or not. This is what it's going to be. It's very unapologetic in a lot of ways, So yes, I hate the exposition. Could it have been better? Absolutely. Could have been way better. Could some of the story be like explained better or maybe even simplified in some ways? Yes, it could have been. But the beats were hit. Superman is fallible and he embraces that. And he's made the choice to be good and to save life instead of take it. And that is communicated everywhere. And it's just a great message that I think that we need now. You know, it's very timely, I think.
I completely agree. And having someone do that to the nth degree is something we've kind of been missing over the last like 20 years, because it feels like we've seen Superman, Batman, like do it begrudgingly a little too easily. It's like, I don't want to do it, but I will. And then they just freaking get right to it. It's like, okay, how about someone who doesn't like fighting, someone who doesn't like war, like he's stepping in to stop war. And so much, and it's maybe cyclical, of every time a new generation comes in, they want to see what they're capable of, you know, in terms of fighting. And we need to understand and reframe the way we think about fighting and war. And it's not fun, it's not cool. And having someone kind of step into that gap of like, let's, not only is it not cool, but it's worth defending to a degree that is inconvenient. Like it would have been so much more convenient for the Joker to die, or for Lex Luthor to just die right there. Like he had him in his power, but he gets arrested and he's going to go through due process, unlike the thing that Superman was denied. Like, we need those messages out there, just as a reframing of what we think we know about the best way to serve humanity. And so I adore it. Humor aside, I love that this is something that kids are going to grow up consuming. Like, oh yeah, I don't know why black sites, you know, feel wrong, but for some reason they do. It's because deep in your soul was embedded this idea of a pocket universe being evil. That's why. And I'm for it, man.
Well said.
I'm all for it.
Agreed, man. Agreed.
Nice. What are you going to recommend this week, sir?
Oh, I'm going to recommend another superhero movie. I'm surprised that we haven't. Maybe I'm not surprised that we haven't covered it, but I would like to one day. I'm going to recommend Shazam. I think it's from 2019. I really like this movie a lot. It embraces the comedic aspect of being a superhero, and I think the writing is really strong, and I think it's fun. But at the same time, it's heavy at moments. And I remember watching it for the first time. I've seen it like 3 times already, because, you know, I have kids, and, you know, and I remember the first time watching it thinking, this is way better than it should be. Like, it really is. So yeah, I really enjoy it. So Shazam. Well
done. Yeah, I've never seen Shazam, so maybe I'll put it back in the queue. Way back.
Cue it up, man.
Way back. But I'm going to recommend a movie called Materialists. It's by Celine Song, the woman who wrote and directed Past Lives. And I like where she's going. She's just making stories about love in New York. And this is just another one of those. And I mean, that's not even a good way to phrase that. It's just another one of those, as if there's so many great ones out there. But I love that she's approaching love in so many interesting facets. And Materialist is another one where it's about a matchmaker who is helping set up women, and she's having to wrestle with the ideas of what love is and what she wants out of a relationship. And it's not a rom-com. It's pitched as a rom-com, and it's really not. It's really just a modern day romance. And so for that reason, I probably liked it more than if it had tried to be a rom-com. It's Chris Evans. Rom-coms. Yeah, same. There's on one hand, I'm sure I could count them and still have fingers left over. And so I love it. It's got Chris Evans, it's got Pedro Pascal, and Dakota Johnson. And so 2 out of 3 are not bad. Like Dakota Johnson, I don't know if she was the right perfect casting for this, but she's solid. But really, Pedro Pascal and Chris Evans are shining. And so highly recommend it. Go check that out. It's probably out of theaters by now, but yeah. Stay tuned for next week. We go to the baseball diamond. We take a look at A League of Their Own. And we find out once and for all, Tom Hanks will let us know whether or not there is or is not crying in baseball. I'm on the edge of my seat because I don't know which way he's going to go.
I'm not sure. Either way, who knows? On the fence.
If you're enjoying the show, don't forget, subscribe, review us, leave us a note if there's something you want us to cover. And if you want to comment on this episode, you can do that at thepestlepodcast.com/Superman.
And our quote of the day is from the late great Joey Ramone. To me, punk is about being an individual and going against the grain and standing up and saying, this is who I am. Yeah. 100%.
That's it.
100%. I mean, that's it. That's it.
Just,
and that it maybe some days that's being corny.
Yes.
And that's punk rock, or maybe some days it's loving somebody who everybody hates, or expressing love to people who, maybe shouldn't be granted that,
Yeah. To me, it's owning who you are, being an individual, going against the grain. That in itself, if you don't finish that sentence, that just sounds like being a contrarian, right? Like just go against the grain is punk rock. That's not punk rock. Being contrarian is not what I think he's talking about. He's standing up and saying, this is who I am. And if that means going against the grain, that's who I am as an individual. And that's awesome. We just don't have enough of that. Like we're so tribal. We're so influenced by what we think other people want us to be and say. Like that's not cool. I have this whole diatribe that I go on in one of my last scripts about liking what you like is what's awesome. Like if that means sugar in your coffee, dope. I don't know why it's so cool to love drinking black coffee. It's bitter. It's gross.
Dude, I can't. I'm so glad you brought that up because they bring that up in the movie.
Oh,
Lois,
yeah, she likes sugar. Oh, I forgot.
She's pumps it, and he's like, I think that's too much sugar. Whatever. That's how she likes it. She didn't give a shit what anybody thinks. Perfect. And honestly, that meant a lot to me because I like cream and sugar in my fucking coffee. And sorry, I do. Whatever. I like my steak medium well. I don't care if you're a purist and you're like, oh no, you need it rare. I don't care. That's how I like it. That's how I want it. And they call that out in this movie. Like she loves sugar. And so you bring that up and I'm like, oh yeah, but you're exactly what they do.
What a great thing to point out because that is exactly what James Gunn is getting at, right? Like it's so emblematic of the movie he's making. Like there's too much sugar in that. It's like, you'll get over it. This is what I like.
Yeah. I saw it. I think it was several years ago. Dave Grohl said something about like, who cares what people like? Like it doesn't matter what you like. He said, my favorite song of the last 20 years is Gangnam Style. I'm not ashamed of it. That's punk rock. That's who you are. That's what you like. And it doesn't matter what everybody else thinks, what the purists or the people who like dedicate their lives to it think. That doesn't matter. What matters is you know who you are and that you're standing up and saying, I like Gangnam Style, or I like sugar in my coffee, or I like Superman.
Absolutely. Yeah. So love what you love unashamedly. Like if you like a thing, why not? Even if you recognize that thing isn't objectively good. There's movies that I like that I'm like, I know objectively this is a garbage movie and I'm okay with that. I still love it. I can do both things. I can like judge this thing for something that's not while loving it for what it is. And that's okay. This is who I am. Hell yeah, man.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, well said. Gosh, Joey. Fantastic. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. I had a great time. It was a great excuse to go to a brand new theater for me, and just loved it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode. Please share us with your friends, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, review us, all that good stuff. If there's a film that you'd like to see us talk about or pick apart or just analyze, let us know. Maybe we'll do it one day. Until next time, I'm Todd.
I'm Wes.
Go watch some movies.
With the crossed eyes.